What's going on, everybody? This is Riley McShane from Allegaeon, and you are listening to the Brutally Delicious Podcast.
Hey, there we go.
All right.
Hey, man, it is good to see you again.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Doing all right. Hey, before we even get started, a year and a half later, we still revisit your episode from way back. You gave us singing lessons, and then you introduced us to urethral sounding, which I think we try and bring up in every fucking podcast.
How could I forget? Yeah, hold on just one second, guys.
No worries.
I'm going to pop into my car real quick, so I might switch from Wi-Fi to...
that's fine.
Yeah, I'm technically on a job right now, but I couldn't get anybody else in the band to take over for this one, unfortunately, so you guys have to deal with me being on a phone.
That's cool.
I appreciate you taking the time anyway.
Yeah, no worries, guys. All right.
Are you still out in San Diego?
Could be worse. Could be somewhere where it actually snows and shit.
Yeah. We're in Richmond, and it's here. It's like 22 this morning, so I'm jealous. So I'm going to go ahead and start this, and as if I couldn't be a bigger fan of the band, you guys dropped Damnum, and holy shit, this is a monster record.
Thanks, man.
It's a monster record, and I mean, Chris is going to talk to you about some details in a little bit, but my favorite song is... Hold on, I'm going to have to pull it up because I just lost it. Called Back, is that it?
Called Home, yeah.
That is crazy.
Thanks, man.
Everything about that song, and I mean, your voice, but how hard of a song was that to write? Because that seems like it came from, that came from your core, right?
Yeah, so that song, Greg and I co-wrote the lyrics together, and then the band, myself included, all kind of contributed musically to it as well. I think the musical part that I wrote was like a lot of the piano stuff,
right.
And like the progression of the chords in that middle section, that that whole thing. But Greg and I co-wrote the lyrics to that song together because we both lost people that were very close to us to suicide over the past couple years.
I'm sorry, man.
Almost like one right after the other. And so we were both experiencing, the pain of that loss kind of at the same time. And, being musicians, that's just kind of how we cope. It's how we process those emotions. So we wrote that song together, and I think that it definitely resonates with people, even if they're unsure of like the source material, you know what I mean? Like it just has that element about it, where you can tell that it's a very like emotionally invested song.
Yeah.
It presents a new dynamic that we never really had musically before, you know what I mean? And I think that because of those reasons and a few others, it's a song that really hits.
Well, yeah, because like I said, I've listened to it a few times, and that's the one that I keep going back to. And I don't know any of the stories that you just told me, but it connects, and it's,
yeah.
I don't know. I guess you never really thought. Most people don't think that extreme metal and extreme music can connect like that, but fuck, that song connects.
Yeah, that song was definitely written to hit for sure. So I'm glad that its intended purpose is coming across. You know what I mean?
Success.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, man.
Chris.
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear about that. That's a hard thing to go through, losing someone like that. It's not easy, and especially because sometimes you don't feel like you can have closure, and there's all kinds of other things that go along with someone choosing or someone being ill enough to take their life. I won't even say choosing, because I don't necessarily think they choose to do that, But,
yeah. More often than not, it's it's just like the snowball gets too big, you know what I mean? Like it's just one thing after the other, and then it just kind of culminates to that point. And yeah, and, you know, you're right. There's a lot of stuff in the aftermath, right? There's always, you know, that song starts with the lyrics, you know, in the web you left behind type of thing, because there's always so many things that come to light after the fact, you know what I mean? And not only with their lives and their struggles and their processes and, you know, everything that led up to that point, but also like the gamut of emotions that you experience as one of the people that is left in the wake of something like that. And I think that that's really where that song shines, is that it's like, you know, the sadness is there, the anger is there, the grief is there. Like the dynamic of the song was really made with the intention to try to exhibit all of those different things. So yeah, you know, it was a shitty thing to experience, and you know, those people are still thought about every day. But I'm glad that, you know, I'm in a position to have that outlet with the Legion to be able to kind of channel those emotions and hopefully, you know, give someone who might be thinking about, you know, taking their own life, or someone who recently experienced the loss of life in that way of a loved one, to, you know, have something to maybe guide them along the way.
How cathartic is that for you?
You know, I didn't really realize how cathartic it was going to be until I was recording. It was one of those songs where it was like, while I was writing it, I was still so in the moment, you know what I mean? Like I was still like, all those feelings were still so present. And the time between writing and recording was pretty significant, you know, better part of a year. So I had, for the most part, kind of like thought that I had like done my healing and done my processing. And it wasn't until I was like in the studio actually recording the parts that I just started like coming apart at the seams, man, like just losing it. You know, and we all felt it. Like it was one of those things where like our recording engineer during that middle section, when I was like kind of, you know, giving the vocal delivery on that part, he was like, "Hey man, like, do you need to take a break?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, like, let's take 5." And I walk out of the vocal booth, and the first thing he does is just like fucking hugs me with tears in his eyes. He's just like, "Fuck, dude, this song is fucking rough, man." And I was just like, "Yeah."
That's awesome.
So, you know, it was very cathartic. You know, it had a big emotional impact on everyone involved. But you know, I'm just glad that it's out there now. You know what I mean? I'm glad that it's there for other people.
That's awesome. So on a totally different note, so to take a left turn here, I was listening to Of Beasts and Worms, and first and foremost, holy shit, did that kick my ass. Like, fuck me, right in the nuts, like right between the nuts, and it made its own hole straight up. But the vocal production on that song in particular is probably some of the best metal vocal production that I've really ever heard, to be honest.
Thanks, man.
You go through like all of the voices that you got. You got the guttural, you got the pitch scream, you have the straight scream or the straight singing. But just the way it was layered, like you'll have this like mono or slightly doubled vocal, and then it will split into stereo with the third up the middle, and like there's all of these subtleties going in to how that vocal was produced. How much of that were you involved with, and who was the producer? Who did all this stuff?
Yeah, so Dave Otero at Flatline Audio is the producer. He's the guy who did all the magic. As far as like how parts were written and how it was all like kind of decided on, that is, I'm gonna say like 85-90% me, and then the other remaining percentage is Dave, because Dave always contributes creatively to the recording process. Like if he hears something in his head that he wants to try out, like he has zero hesitations about being like, "Yo, let's try this thing. Let's see if it sounds cool." So, you know, I'm trying to think. Like, I think that, you know, some of the, like, I knew that I wanted to have a harmony, for example, right?
Yeah.
During like the back half of the chorus. And I had written the harmony, and then Dave kind of came in and like tweaked it a little bit to just make it sound like exactly how it should.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot of Dave. I mean, there's parts on that song that like I kind of wrote on accident. Like I remember when I was writing the intro, when I'm writing, usually I'll kind of just like mouth patterns to myself before I start like getting into the lyrical content, because I want to have something of a framework, right, when I'm working on lyrics, so that I can create cadence and have the lyrics read well, so it's not just like, you know, random placement of lyrical content. And when I was doing that, I was like, okay, like, you know, just kind of like mumbling to myself, going over the intro. And then as I was doing that, I was like, oh shit, like this intro part might sound cool in like a bass baritone type of timbre.
Well,
that's where like, oh, go ahead.
That's one of the things that stuck out to me right away. I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but I fucking like it.
Yeah. It was a lot of experimentation on this album overall, but that song particularly, I think really, because I had written my parts for that song pretty early on. I think it was like the second or third song that I had written for. And it gave me a lot more confidence in just being like, you know, sometimes ideas just like come to you, and instead of shooting them down or being like, oh, this doesn't fit the mold, just fucking go for it and see if it works, you know? And in this case, it did. Sometimes it doesn't, but like, you never know until you try.
Yeah. One thing that always blows me away about your band, but you in particular, is the level of control that you have over every part of your voice. Like,
thanks,
like it almost seems kind of superhuman, you know? Because I'm not I'm not being facetious here, but like you have it live too, which is what makes it more believable to me. Otherwise, I would think there's no way that this is happening, that he's going from like this, from all these different kind of characters and abilities. How much time do you put in practicing? You know, I just want to know from a curiosity point of view.
I sing. Yeah, I sing for about an hour every day.
Yeah.
And whether or not it's like death metal vocals or cleans, or, you know, like I listen to a lot of different music, and usually what I do when I'm singing, you know, throughout the day, is I'll just kind of like sing along to whatever I'm listening to. Occasionally I'll like run through actual like proper warm-ups and stuff, but that's usually not unless I have like a vocal performance coming up.
Yeah.
Like when I'm on tour, for example, if I know I'm going to have a 45-minute set, I'll spend like 20 minutes doing warm-ups like right before I go on stage, so my voice is warm. But then I usually won't sing much throughout the day, because, you know, it's like working out, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to hit the gym for 4 hours every day, because your fucking muscles will explode.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing with your voice. It's like, I don't want to sing for more than like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours a day, because I don't want to like damage my voice. I don't want to start experiencing vocal fatigue, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but as far as like the styles that I practice, or like if I have a practice regimen or something like that, it's honestly usually just like kind of off the cuff. Like I'll just start singing something while I'm driving around, or you know, kind of, you know, be like, oh shit, like I haven't really warmed up today, and go through my warm-ups. But I definitely sing every day for at least, you know, 45 to 60 minutes.
Nice. How does that translate into the recording process then? So, and this is something that I already know, but I need to ask so people can hear it back from someone way more famous and way better than I am. How do you translate that into the recording process, right? Because you'll often meet a lot of novice singers that they just want to sing all day through the whole recording process. And that's always a terrible idea.
Right.
So how do you navigate that?
Well, I go in warm. That always helps because I'd say that my voice has about an 8-hour lifespan per day, right? And that's with timed breaks and, proper warm-ups before I go into it. So what I'll do is I'll spend, 20, 30 minutes before I go into the studio, warming up, just like singing stuff, getting my voice, running stuff from either end of my register and getting comfortable pretty much wherever so that I can jump right into those parts in the studio. Also knowing what I'm going to record that day, because everything is done in a segmented way, right? So like I'm not recording the song straight through like you hear them, right? Like I'll do, a whole day or a whole couple days of like just my low growls and just like go through the whole album and get all of those taken care of so that my voice can like settle into that space. And then once we're done with all those, I'll spend a day, half a day doing all my highs and stuff like that and just kind of going through it like that. So knowing what I'm going to record the day I'm going to record it is also very helpful for, knowing how I'm going to warm up. As far as lasting throughout the day, it's just all about time breaks and like knowing how to treat your voice. Knowing that improper form and like not singing from like knowing your vocal anatomy basically is also important. So knowing how to use your voice, knowing how to treat your voice, and then knowing what you're recording the day you're recording it are all things that I take into consideration when I know that I'm going to be having like an 8-hour session for a week straight. You know what I mean? Like 7-8 days in a row of just doing 8 hours of vocal production. So yeah, I mean, and of course the time leading up to those days is also important. Like making sure that my voice is in tip-top shape for months ahead of time before I go into the studio, instead of just being like, oh, well, I'm not recording or touring. I can just kind of, let my voice kind of slide and then, end up in the studio and be like, oh, I sound like shit. Like that's never something you want to do. So there's a lot that goes into it.
And when you say time breaks, like, how do you judge your break? Like, do you say, okay, I'm only going to sing for 30 minutes, then I'll take a break? Or do you say, okay, I'm going to wait until I feel my voice getting warm? How do you go about that?
So when I say timed breaks, I mean timing the actual break. So I'll set a timer on my phone to 5, 10, or 15 minutes, depending on what part of my voice I'm using and how long I need to like recover. So like if I'm doing low growls and I start to experience a little bit of vocal fatigue, I'll just take like a 5-minute break, drink some room temperature water, not talk at all. That's what taking a break is it's not just not screaming. It's like
nothing.
But yeah, that's what I mean. Is like taking a break means like completely stopping using your voice. So no talking, no singing, just like drinking water, taking a timed break, making sure that you're giving your voice ample time to rest. Imagine it like, I use exercise allegories and metaphors a lot when explaining this because it's something that most people can understand, but it's like, you don't lift weights for eight sets straight, right? You do like, if you're doing 4 sets, you do, 8 reps and then you rest for 2 minutes and then you do 8 reps and then you rest for 2 minutes. It's like that. So everything is very timed because you don't want your voice to cool down. Like I don't want to take like a 30-minute break. But at the same time, I, don't want to give my voice not enough rest. So I'll take like I said, like 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on what part of my voice I'm using, and just give it that adequate recovery time in between, takes or songs or whatever.
Cool. I'm sorry to ask such a technical question. It's just, I really look up to the way that you can perform. So, and I think it's also good for people to listen. Man. I think it's great for others to listen because it's important. I record vocalists all the time and they'll try to push themselves until it can't be done anymore. And sometimes even when I say, okay, you have to stop now, give yourself recovery time, they'll be like, no, I'm good, and they'll try to push through, and you always end up getting way less work done.
Yes, yeah, 100%. It's you have to know your body, man. Like, and that's a huge part of like why it's so important to rehearse before you get into the studio. Like, you need to know what your limits are, and you need to know, how long can I sing before I need to take a break? Like, how well do I know these songs so that I can, accomplish what I need to accomplish in the allotted time that I have in the studio. Because, I recognize that being in Allegaeon, I'm in a very fortunate position where, like, we have label support, and, like, I get to spend a whole week and a half, 2 weeks in the studio with 8-hour days, just, fucking making shit perfect, right?
Right.
But a lot of people, like, they're self-supported. They only have time to budget, like, 1 or 2 days in the studio. And I understand, like, the desire to have that urgency to be like, no, like, we have to get all this shit done, like, this weekend, it's got to happen. But, if you try to do something like that, you need to spend the time leading up to that weekend really understanding and learning and understanding your body and your limits and how your vocals are going to be affected by either recognizing or not recognizing those things.
Yeah. I also think it's a good idea, just to add on to that, to work with a producer that understands if you know that. Because if the producer knows you don't, they can add in editing time or whatever to make up for whatever's going on with the vocalist, so they can stretch it out. They can stretch out the vocals for a longer period of time.
So I know we're running up against time here, but
sorry.
No, that's fine. I think it's great. But how excited are you to finally be out on tour? Because like a week and a half from now, maybe 2 weeks?
Yeah, a little under 2 weeks, man. I'm stoked, dude. I haven't played a show since the late fall, early winter of 2019. So I am.
Oh my god.
Yeah, dude, I'm ready for it, man. I can't wait to get back out there and hang out with fans and meet new people and see old faces and just get back out on the road and do what I'm best at. Like, it's been miserable not being able to get out and play shows for the past 2 years. So now that we're finally right up against this, beginning of this tour, I'm just getting more and more excited as each day passes. And
it's a really good package too. That's going to be a great tour.
Yeah, man. If you're a Melodeath progressive metal fan, like, this is cream in the jeans, man. This is the one.
Okay, well, who are the bands on the tour?
It's Omnium Gatherum, and then us as direct support, and then opening up the bill is Black Crown Initiate.
And that's a heavy as fuck band too.
Yeah, Black Crown fucking rules.
Much fun will be had on this tour.
And I will say that anybody listening to this show, whoever those 3 people are, we still talk about the best show I think I've ever seen, and I've seen so many, is the little tiny lounge on the top of 70,000 tons where people were ripping the ceilings down, and you guys were just smoking the shit out of it. There is nothing better than that night.
Yeah, that's to this day one of the most fun sets I've ever played. It's like, what's really cool, or the thing that I take away the most from that whole experience at 70,000 tons, is that, like, when we play, right, like, we're always just in one market, whether it's in New York or Chicago or Milan or Barcelona, wherever it is on the globe, we're still limited to the audience response of that single market. But with 70,000 tons, like, you have people from all over the world coming to this one event. And so getting to experience, like, that level of fan interaction where it's just, like, people from all over the fucking place being at that show, like, experiencing something that they, like, went out of pocket pretty deep to be there and experience, like, it was, like, their dedication was reflected so brilliantly in their crowd participation. And being able to experience that like we did in the Pyramid Lounge during 70,000 tons is, like, something that it's a memory I value very much, because it's a rare thing.
Yeah, the whole place was all
they were
in,
losing their fucking minds.
all I can think of is
from the stage all the way out of the room to the elevators. It was the whole room. There was like not a single inch of unpacked space in there. I was just like, holy shit. Yeah, it was fucking brilliant, man. I loved it.
Well, I think it filled up that much. Well, a lot of people were there to see you, obviously. But I think before that you did a 5 a.m. set on the pool deck. I think somewhere around there. Am I correct in that thinking? Hello?
Yes, yeah. Our first set was at 5 a.m. on the pool deck, and it wasn't quite as packed. Because it was 5 a.m. on the first day.
I remember though, after that show, I woke up and I was out, and everyone's like, "Holy fuck, you missed the best show on the pool deck, man!" And it was like the buzz all over the boat was the fact that everyone missed that show. And that's why everyone went to the Pyramid Lounge to see it.
We're going to let you go anyway. We're coming up on our next one, but I appreciate you taking the time, man. I always love chatting with you.
No worries, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Sorry for the connection issues. And until next time, it's always great talking to you, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you, my friend. Stay safe. Have a great time on tour.
Absolutely, guys. I hope to see you.
Be well.
You too, man. Cheers.
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 Hello out there. Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McShane. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.